greetings, everyone. It is such a great day, another great opportunity to come to you for another episode of Let's Talk Family. I am your host, Warren, Mr. Bowtie Feaster, and I am here with this show to provide you with resources and information to strengthen your family and strengthen the family structure. No subject is really too far fetched as long as it's something that we can benefit from learning from the family, then we're all on board. And today I have a double doozy actually. And you'll understand more about that when we start the conversation. But today is going to be very interesting. We're going to start off in one direction and then we're going to flip the script on you and give you some valuable information on both sides of this spectrum. So while we're getting ready for our guests, go ahead and invite somebody, like, share, comment. Throughout the show, if you want to ask a question, go ahead and ask your question, and we definitely will get your answer. And if you're watching the replay, again, ask your question, and we will get to your answer. So don't be scared, don't be shy, interact, join in the conversation. Now, let's talk family. Let's welcome our guest, Miss Debranetta Howard. How are you, Debranetta?
Hi, good afternoon. How is everyone? I'm excited about today's conversation.
Listen, I would tell you, I practice your name to make sure that I said it right. I've been practicing to make sure I said it right. So glad to have you. Thank you for accepting the invite. Thank you for being here. Before we go any further, go ahead and take a couple of minutes and tell us who you are.
Awesome. Well, again, I'm excited to be on today's episode of Let's Talk Family. My name is Debranetta Howard. I am the founder of Career Mom Community LLC. I've made it my mission to empower working women to strive to create time freedom and financial freedom for themselves and their families through that platform. I'm so excited once again to share just some wisdom and have a really good conversation that I hope will be a blessing to those who are watching.
Listen, she ain't do justice on who she is, y'all. I'm just gonna put that out there. So just as we get along throughout the show, stuff is just gonna start popping out and start coming out, and you'll see, y'all. If you notice, the last couple of shows have been some powerhouses, and I haven't slowed down yet. So we're gonna start with another powerhouse. So we're just gonna start off real basic. You're a career mom. Like what does this mean, career mom?
Yes. So for me, I am multi passionate, and I don't know if that's just my millennial upbringing that made me enjoy a lot of different things and really want to be impactful and purposeful. Not to sound any kind of way, but when we are born into this world, we have a short amount of time, and we're sent here for purpose and on purpose. And I really want to make sure that I am being a blessing to others. I am enjoying this life that I have to live. And I'm also enabling my children to enjoy their lives. So I work full time in corporate America. My background is in finance, and I work in corporate finance, more so on the IT side. And that has been my career. So I found myself in 2019 looking for resources that would help people like me, someone who's navigating motherhood, but also has multiple passions. At that time, I was I had a nonprofit organization for young girls to empower them through cheerleading and dance. And I just really wanted to manage my time so that I could do the things that I enjoy and I love and still be present for my family. So I kind of, flopped about, struggled a bit. And I was like, you know what? Let me create the platform and the space for other working women who are like me. And I may not have it all together, but I can share my journey. I can share my struggles. I can share what has worked. And that's what really birthed Career Mom Community. And I started that platform. So that's a little bit about that piece. Me personally, like I said, I really want to create a life that I have where I have time freedom and financial freedom. So I do a lot of planning videos on my YouTube channel and budget planning videos on my YouTube channel. Sometimes we think, we may have our own preconceived notions around money. And, if you were like me, I grew up in the church. So, that the love of money is the root to all evil. But I get it. We don't want to love and covet money, but we can also create that wealth for our families, and we can budget well. I work hard for my money. So I want to make sure it's working hard for me and I'm enjoying life. So I just have,
Let me cut you off real quick because
uh,
I wanna tie something in real quick
yes.
so that people can see something that is going to be very beneficial. In a world since 2020, we know a lot of things have changed, and when business shut down, a lot of the entrepreneurs, a lot of the side hustles, a lot of that birth. And now you're saying that you are doing the full time business and then the full time mom. So you're speaking to a generation of people that are, I don't want to say struggling where you are, which in a way it is struggling, but that are where you are. So how did that? What sparked that balance? What sparked trying to get that balance?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like people will try to push you to pick one, and I
Right,
couldn't.
right.
I couldn't. I didn't want to, leave my career. It's not my season to leave my career. And I didn't want to not pursue the business endeavor. So I couldn't choose. I made a system. I created plans for me to find the right mix in the moment to pursue those different pathways and still be present for my family. So I couldn't choose, and I didn't feel like I had to choose. I feel like, as individuals, we can navigate anything that we put our minds to. And I was determined to navigate that journey. So I think, one, not wanting to choose, and two, knowing that it was a part of my overall purpose to really be influential and to make an impact into the lives of others. So I didn't want to choose, and I felt that that's what I was being called to navigate in that season. So I put it all together.
I like that. Let me tell you why I like that. Because most people, one, feel that they have to choose, or two, are being persuaded to choose. And you're saying not only that you didn't want to. Yeah. So the drive, the initial drive for you, was it to be successful in both areas?
I think success is a byproduct of the work that we put forth. I
That
didn't
was a trick question. You did good.
I didn't want to I didn't do it to say I want to be this great person. I did it because I really wanted to make a difference. Right? I enjoy corporate finance. That's my career. That's what I went to school for. I enjoy it. I really wanted to share with other moms. I really wanted to put out budget plan with me videos, and that's what I wanted to do to make a difference. It also brought me joy, and it was also helping others. So I didn't feel like I needed to choose in that moment. But here's the thing that I've also noticed. um, Sometimes you'll get into spaces with other entrepreneurs, and they make it the goal of leaving the 9 to 5, right? Or if you're in your career, focus on your career, grow, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things I've noticed with some individuals who are operating in these spaces, they too manage both. It may not look the same. So for me, I have my LLC, my business, but you have individuals who are in the workplace who may have ministries, who may be on the board of directors, some paid, some unpaid. You have individuals who are investors in other businesses. It may not be their own, but they work heavily. You have people who have multiple jobs.
Yeah.
So I think this notion that we have to pick one thing is, I feel like sometimes it could be like either, I don't know if it's a marketing ploy or just something that sounds good to say in the moment. But when you peel back the layers for the individuals that you may be talking to, you'd be surprised how many people just aren't singular focused on one thing.
Yeah. And the interesting part is you found the balance. And I think that's the struggle more than anything else. I think it's not so much as trying to make the decision as much as finding the balance in the decision that you made. Does that make sense?
It does. It really does. Just because one thing may work in one season, you may have to tweak it a little bit in another season. So I think this quest for equal and trying to make everything work at one time is not the best fit perspective. Figure out what's going to work in your current season and maximize the moments that you are in to get the things that you desire to get done. Done.
Yeah. So, I'm retired military, did 25 years in the Army. And one of the things that I was very passionate about was when I'm home, I'm home. I understand. I mean, those of us that's been in the military and those of you that are viewing that's been in the military, the military, it requires a lot of attention and it takes a lot out of you. So I purposely for years said, when I'm home, I'm home. Sometimes that meant doing the work that I need to do at home later when my family would sleep and or getting up early and stuff like that. But that's how I found that balance because I knew that once they hand me my DD 214 and they give me my flag, my retirement flag, my family had to be there. And I wanted to have a place with them and I wanted to be viable. And I didn't want to have I mean, granted, we have to catch up because we've missed a lot, but I didn't want it to be a sinkhole that I had to fill up and catch up, and I'm listening to you and thinking, wow, it's not just the military like that. Like you made a conscious decision to invest in your family also and pursue your goals and your careers.
Yes, yes. And first of all, thank you for your service. And that is true. That is very correct. When you have that time with your family, maximize that. It's
Yes.
all about doing what matters in that particular moment. So sometimes my children, they're younger and they may come, Mommy, Mommy, can you play with me? And in that moment, if I'm able to stop what I'm doing and just sit down and play with them, that's what I'm going to do because that's what mattered in that moment.
Yeah. And it's listen. Yes, yes, and yes. And I'm like, most people can't see the forest for the trees. You see it, but I can't see the trees for the forest. I'm so busy looking at the big picture. And I had to learn, like you said, those 5 minutes, those 7 minutes, it's been so many times where I was like, if you give me 5 minutes, let me finish writing this or finish doing this, and then I'll come and play. And then being true to that has so much weight and so much volume because at the end of the day, my company model is built around the center of everything is family. You cannot have a successful career if you don't have a successful family.
Absolutely. I see the
Yeah,
comments coming through. I agree. That is awesome, and that is definitely a precious point to point out. And I hope people take hold of that.
yeah. So tell me your lesson learned as you was learning the balance. Now you got it set, you got it planned, everything is working out. But that initial struggle when you made the decision that you wanted to do both. Like, tell me a little bit about that. How did that work? What are some of the things that you had to learn and what you had to kick out? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm still learning actually. That's the thing
No.
because life throws us curveballs along
Yes.
this journey. And I had a recent, and it's not a curveball, but something great I'll share. I I knew that now was a good time for me to start applying for my doctoral program to go back to school. And I was recently accepted.
Yes.
So that's a whole nother
Yes.
element that
You
I
ain't gonna
hadn't
slow down
initially
on
had to.
nothing.
So yes, I'm excited. But that wasn't initially planned for 2022. But I knew I heard God say, go ahead and do it. And I got the acceptance letter. So now I have to factor in what I'm going to do to incorporate a rigorous program for the next 3 years.
Yes.
And so that goes back to what you asked when I was making the decision to start the business, there were some things I had to press pause on. So the first thing was I did have a nonprofit for young girls for about 6 years, and many of my girls, they were getting older and they were going off to high school, and that's about the time where they kind of age out of my program. And so I was left, I was pregnant with my son at that particular time, or he was younger at that time. And I was like, I didn't want to go back to coaching because I did that with the two kids in tow and, spotting stunts, pregnant, and all of that other stuff. Probably not safe, but but I knew life just looked different. And although that's my passion, I had to find another way to empower young girls. So I stopped that program. So sometimes in life, you do have to pivot and identify things that you may need to press pause on so you can do something else in that season. And that now I'm faced with a similar scenario with the acceptance to go to a great program. I'll be going to Georgia State University for my executive doctorate in business administration. And I looked at the hours requirements and I was like, you know what? Let me make a list of everything that I have on my plate and see what I can delegate, defer, and potentially start or stop.
Awesome. You said something. You said a couple somethings, and I don't even know which direction to go. That delegate. I'm gonna tell you that's one of the first lessons you learn as a leader in the military. But listen, what I'm very impressed about is the fact that you took the time. You see what I'm saying? You took the time to decide your priorities. And I think that initial step is missed in a lot of people. I think we just look at what we're juggling and what we're giving up as opposed to what are our priorities. And that kind of shifts the thought process if we're looking at our priorities versus what we're going to lose. You just helped me. I'm just going to be honest.
Well, I am glad about that. But yes, it's not about what you are giving up. And I have a love-hate relationship with the word sacrifice because sometimes we'll think of it as a bad thing, but
Right.
sometimes it's not that it's a bad thing. We're just pausing or pivoting to do something else in a particular season.
Yes.
So we're not losing, we're actually winning. And I think when you phrase it that way, you're able to see the journey better.
Yes.
And yes, it was hurtful at that time to, kind of shut down my cheerleading program. I knew that for even before I started my own program. But now I think about where I am in my career and in life. I'm able to give to other nonprofits who are supporting young girls. Although I can't physically do the work, I can enable someone else who's in their season of
Listen.
doing the work. So
Yes.
I look at it that way. Yes, I pushed pause on that endeavor, but now I look at how far I've come to where, I promise I don't say any of this to brag or anything, but if I can write a check to someone who's trying to get started with their program, then I'm like, I'm passing the baton to somebody else so that they can continue the work because I have to be over here to do something else.
You have repeatedly said pause and pivot. Repeatedly said pause and pivot. And that's, I want to say that's a new concept because we, like you said, the sacrifice word is draining. Let's just be honest, it's draining. We think of what we're going to lose. We think what we got to give up. We think of what we have to get rid of, but we don't think about it in the direction you're saying pause and pivot. I'm gonna stop and then figure out how can I continue to do it the same differently. I like it. I like it. I love it.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's a different perspective. It keeps me grounded. So I don't get overwhelmed. So
Yeah.
that just keeps me grounded. Yeah.
Yes, yes. That pause, that pivot. Man, that's good. Because listen, because as we're trying to balance this life, as we're trying to figure out what we're doing in this life, and my best friend is on, and I'm not telling this story because he's on, but we have the conversation all the time. He was a excellent dancer when we were living in the same area, and he had a young men's ministry, and they was going all over the nation dancing. And over time, he's been unable to do those dances anymore. Time is taking its toll on him, and he can't dance anymore. And I've asked him at least once a year, have you ever thought about going back into dancing? And he says, I can't. And when you hear how he feels, like you can hear that he misses it, you know. But then how do we pivot that? Can we continue on with that? And I'm not talking bad about him or anything. I'm just using it as an example. How do we pivot that? The Bible speaks about how we go from going from being the learner to the teacher, and like the comment here is we go through seasons, and we have to transition with those seasons. So I like the way you said that pause and pivot. And there's a piece in there that you're not saying that we understand, but I'm gonna bring out is the thinking part, the analytical part,
Yeah.
the figuring out how we're gonna do the pivot. There is a step between there that's understood. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And like I mentioned, just taking that time to assess what's on my plate,
Yeah.
right? And how can I make that look different?
I'm telling
And
you,
that's the critical piece.
by the sounds of it, you've done an excellent job of balancing and managing being a career mom. So let's talk about your career. Like what do you do? Tell me, what do you do?
It's interesting to describe. So my background is in finance, undergraduate degree in
Hold on,
finance.
hold on. I've never talked to anybody that is in finance that says it's interesting to describe. So you got me already.
Because typically, right, we think of debits and credits. We think of CPAs. We think of accountants.
Right.
We think of taxes, and I don't do any of that. So that's why I say it's interesting.
Yeah.
So my roles have been in financial analysis. So like FP&A type of roles. So currently, in my role, I work for a major company, and I work in their technology department. So their technology organization. But my role is not technology. My role is to manage portfolio financials. So they're the money side. So either I'm your best friend or I'm not, depending on what you're asking me in that moment. But my background has been heavy on the analytic side. So understanding budgets, understanding spend rates, understanding trends, understanding internal and external implications of some of the decisions that are being made, and how to translate that data into information that non-tech or non-financial people can consume and understand so that they can make decisions. In addition to that, I also lead one of our inclusion networks. So it has been an awesome leadership opportunity for me. So on the whole opposite end of the spectrum from finance to kind of get more into ERG work and DE&I and some HR. So that's been
Oh,
a part of my
you gotta
career.
break them acronyms down.
Oh, diversity, inclusion, and equity. Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah, everybody don't know all them acronyms. We gotta break them down. So listen, so you're not the checkbook holder. You are the manager of the person who holds the checkbook.
There you go.
Man, who would have thought that actually is a
It's
person?
such a thing.
Right. Yeah. Like you're right. When we think about finances and we think about money management, we're thinking about the checkbook and who holds the checkbook. But there's a whole process of helping the person manage the checkbook.
That's true. And I
Hmm.
think, and we talked a little bit about this off camera, but how it ties into some of the things that I enjoy to do on my own when it comes to families and finances. How we think about our money. It's like, this is what I make, this is what I spend.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. What are we doing with the difference? If there's no difference, what are you doing to fix that? If
Yeah.
there is a difference, what are you doing with the difference?
Yeah. So let's talk about budgeting.
Mm.
Let's dive into budgeting for a little while. And I have to ask this question because one, I want to hear the answer again. And two, I want the viewers to hear the answer. Here's the question. Where did your passion for budgeting come from?
Again, interesting. So when I was a child, you know how we would play games as kids. So when I was a kid, I used to love to play banker. I pretended to be a teller, and in my allowance, I would kind of do a DIY, made it up myself, like a little teller till, and I would put my money in there. I would sort it out. My brother would spend his money a little bit sooner than I would, or sometimes I would kind of figure out ways to kind of siphon some of his money too. But I used to play banker, and I would figure out how long it would take me to grow my money. I would also, when I got a little older and I figured out like going into the bank with my parents, they had the boards. They still have them now, but some of the smaller banks, they had the boards where it told you like the interest rates.
Yeah.
And I would look at those and see if they would change. Like, just, I don't know. Like, my mind has thought different about money, but I would look and see what's the interest rate. And, if I were to grow my money at this rate, how much would I have?
How old were you?
I must have been around middle school because we were learning like percentages and fractions and things like that and interest. So I feel like it wasn't high school because by then I had the game down pat by then. But I think it was like late elementary school, maybe middle school, when I used to do the bank watching. But when I was a child, when I was like, middle elementary school, when I started getting like allowance and stuff for chores,
Yeah.
that's when I used to have my little makeshift teal made out of like scrap material in the house, and I would separate my money and put the coins.
So let me guess. Your favorite game has got to be Monopoly.
I love it. I love
How,
it.
listen, how often do you lose?
Well, so here's the thing. My bonus son is a beast at Monopoly. So when he got older, I was like, I've taught him well. So now he can go toe to toe in Monopoly, but he's good. He's really good.
Oh, that's awesome. So listen, one of the things that I specialize in and focus on is marriage and families. Um, and as we're talking about being a career mom and your expertise and your God-given passion, because that had to come from God at a young age, looking at the stock market and um, one of the top reasons marriages end is infidelity and finances. Like
Mm.
those two stay on the top of the charts. So let's dive into money matters at home. You're balancing both home and you're balancing career and you're the career mom. So let's talk about budgeting and family and joint accounts and individual accounts and who holds a checkbook and is a checkbook king. And let's talk to our viewers on, first of all, what is a budget and why is it important? Do I need a budget?
Yes. Yes and yes and yes. So let's let's step back, right? So I always say personal finance is personal. It is a personal decision what you do with your money. What I can do is help you to understand some of the implications of what you may be doing.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you manage your money for your family. And it is my prayer that you are equipped with the knowledge and information to manage it as best as you possibly can
Yeah.
for your family. So it is a personal decision. When it comes to marriages, who manages the finances? The couple needs to have that decision
Uh-huh.
on what they're going to do together. For
Right.
me, our household, my background is finance, so it just made sense
Yeah.
for me to do a little bit more when it comes to the budget. My
But I'm
husband's
the
more than
man.
capable.
I'm the man. I'm supposed to manage the money. I'm the man.
it doesn't have to work like that for everyone. My husband is capable, but I mean, I enjoy it. I have a whole planner with little stickers of when the bill is supposed to be due. He not living that life.
Right.
He's like, don't bring me no stickers thinking I'm gonna do this. If you want to put down stickers in your book, then you do it yourself. But so you figure out what's going to work for
Yes.
you. And it's no slight at the other person
Right.
who does it, because the goal is we're not in debt, our bills are being paid, and our family has the pathway to
Yes.
financial freedom. So
Yes.
you figure out what's going to work for you and your family. Now,
Yes.
some seasons, if we have to switch off, then we switch off. But that's what you do. You have that constant communication. It doesn't have to stay one way. In months where it gets, has gotten draining for me to look at our budget, then he does it. So you figure out in the moment what's going to work best. But at the end of the day, like, typically I'm the one that's still looking at the bank rates.
Mhm.
So I'm staying on top of what the interest rates are and when we need to switch our money somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I do naturally. So it just makes sense
Yes.
in that mode. So between the husband and wife, it may not be a issue of the money. It could be a communication issue. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not a marriage expert. My sister-in-law, I see she's on, Laura with Love Heart of Marriage Coaching. She that is her vein with couples. But if you're having a conflict with your money, dig deeper to see, are there any trust issues? Is
Yeah.
there an issue with communication overall? Do you need to work through some deeper
Yeah.
issues or challenges before you even tackle your
Yeah.
budget? So figure out that piece as a couple first, and then figure out what's going to work for you and your family.
Right.
That's what it's about.
Dilly dilly. I can't do no but echo all of that. I mean, that is by far, yes. Yes, that's it.
Yeah, and that's really where I'll encourage people to dive into. Now, when you ask, what is a budget? So
Mhm.
a budget really, to me, is a roadmap for your money. It's going to
I
tell
like
you how much you're bringing into your household. It's going to tell you how much is going out of your household, and then you manage the difference. So, my kids, they used to watch Pete the Cat. It was this song, Buttons, and it had a nice little jingle to it. And I remember one day I started singing, "Money comes and money goes. Do we cry? Goodness no."
it. Right.
To go along with it. But so that's your budget. It's your financial roadmap for you and your family. Now, there's two ends of the spectrum. So for some people, you find yourself where you spend more than you make. Now, your budget should help you course correct
Yeah.
and start to determine ways that you can cut, that you can bring in additional income so that you are not overextending yourself financially. That's a challenging piece. And in
Yeah.
all transparency, we've been there because we had a crazy amount of debt at one piece. And I know you're like, but girl, didn't you say you work in finance? Yes, but I also, in one season, life happened, and then
Yeah.
we wilded out a little bit. So we ended up suffering the consequences of lifestyle choice and the product of life happening. Two
I like
things I learned:
yeah.
one, life happens to us all.
Yes.
Two, you got to stay on top of your finances because things can go south real fast.
Yes.
So, when couples come to me or families come to me for budget support, I always say, I do not judge. I do not judge. I understand what it means to have to dig your way out of debt. And I'm so thankful that we were able to do that and pay off all of our credit card debt. And now we're working to tackle the student loans,
Woo.
juxtapose that with going back to school. So we're in an interesting window, but that's what your budget does. It gives you that roadmap to make decisions. It gives you that roadmap to determine where you have opportunity to make changes so that you can live financially free. The second piece, for those who make more than they spend, that's a great place to be in, because then you can start to make those investment decisions. Then you can start to figure out how you build that long-term sustainable generational wealth for your family.
Break
So
that break that down a little bit. Help us understand what you mean by long term, sustainable,
sustainable
generational
generational wealth.
wealth. That's a whole lot in that. That I need you to break that down.
So when yes, so when you are looking at how much you have to invest, that's what you're investing in. For some, they determine, property because they can pass that down. They determine stocks or bonds so it can grow over time,
Yeah,
CDs so that they can maybe have it for, their children, or maybe it's, individual savings accounts. So that's something that you can put aside that will grow over the test of time, not short-term satisfaction. And along that same vein includes like your business decisions, the types of businesses that you're building, and the types of businesses that you may be investing in. So when I think about wealth, I try to think over the long haul, not something that may be a quick win, but something that's going to grow over time. I guess another disclaimer, I'm a bit risk adverse when it comes to my money. So, I have one I guess investment account that's teetering on the line of being risky. Like if you look at the stock analysis, it'll tell you if it's if it's a
hmm,
risky type of
right.
investment depending on your bank. But it's teetering there, and I'm like, nope, 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 it can't go over. Too risky. So, but it's just understanding what you want to invest in for you and your family. So that's what I talk about when I say long-term generational wealth. I know there's plenty of opportunity that we see here on social media. Invest in this and be rich tomorrow, or let me teach you how to. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole because I'm not here to offend anybody, but I mean, you see it on Facebook where it's like, 100K in 2 days. I'm like, okay,
I'm gonna tell you, I got this. I got this mentality, and it's if it's too good to be true, then most likely it is too good to be true.
yes, absolutely. So just, for those who are watching, be mindful of those types of financial decisions that you're making. Take some time to think about them. To your point, does it sound too good to be true? Let me dig deeper to see what I'm putting my money towards.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, that's so budgets are great. Okay,
Absolutely.
simple question: how do we start a budget?
Yes, I have a YouTube series on simple
Ooh,
budgets. Yes, yes, you can follow me, Coach D's Planner Life on YouTube. But the easiest way, if you do not have a budget, look at your bank. Look at all your checks that have come into your household, any sources of payments. If you're an entrepreneur, how much do you pay yourself from your business? If you work, what's your paycheck, right? After Uncle Sam or taxes takes his money,
yeah,
after taxes take the money,
you
what
ain't
do you
my
have
uncle.
what do you have left? So start there. What are you bringing in? Just write it down on a piece of paper, put it in a spreadsheet. Simple as that. Step two, look at all of your expenses. How much are your monthly bills? What subscription services do you are you paying for? Because those count, right? That's money going out of your household. Make sure that you are looking at quarterly payments such as HOAs or your insurances if you have them on quarterly. Look at your annual payments, any renewals or things that you have to pay each year. So account for those. I do my budget monthly for the full length of the year. So I account for those quarterly and annual payments in the month, and then it sums up at the back end. But you don't have to get that detailed. You could just say, on average over the course of the year, this is how much I make, this is how much I spend, this is the difference. Simple budget, simple setup. And then once you have that simple framework, income, expenses, all of them, don't miss nothing. Because that's how you can trip yourself up in the back end if you start forgetting those quarterly payments or those annually payments, or even if it's that $6.45 that you're paying to Hulu and the
Yeah,
whatever Amazon Prime is now, account for those too, because those are expenses that come out of your household. So how much you make, how much goes out, what's the difference? And then essentially that becomes kind of like a baseline budget. Now when you think about how much you spend on gas and how much you spend on food, if you really want to deep dive into how much your family spends, try this over 2 months. Track every expense. When you go to the gas station, track it. When you go to the grocery store, track it. The coffee shop runs, Starbucks runs, track it. And that'll help you to understand roughly on average how much you're spending on your variable expenses. So like your non recurring bills, right? So your light bill is your light bill, your water bill is your water bill. What you spend on your groceries is kind of contingent upon how much you eat, your family size, and things of that nature. So look at how much you spend over the course of 2 months, just so you can poll, say, on average, this is how much it takes in gas for us to get to and from work, for us to get around town with our kids and things of that nature. So that will help you paint a better picture of your spend when you have a more accurate picture of those types of expenses. So create those line items in your budget as well.
So is it beneficial that I write it down? Because some people do budgeting in their head and they know when their bills are due. They know. Oh, you got a
Don't
serious
do
look.
it again.
You got a serious look on me. Let me stop.
Run away from that. Right. Don't do it in your head. Put it somewhere. I mean, you don't have to write it on physical paper. Put it in an Excel spreadsheet. There are plenty of apps nowadays.
Right.
You can go through and see what's going to be the safest one if you prefer to connect it to your banks or your cards. But there are a lot of ways where you can get it out of your head and onto paper. And technology, the your face when he said budget in your head. No, run.
Yeah,
But
that's
there's a lot of ways
yeah,
for you to make sure that it becomes a living, breathing document, because that's where you can really make the difference. If it's in your head, it's just an idea. But I
right.
feel when you start putting it on paper, you can execute towards it, and you're able to really make some sound financial decisions, because it's no longer just an idea or a thought. It's something that you can see. It is something that you can track. If you can't track it, you don't know if you are growing in a specific area. So get it onto paper, get it into an app,
Yeah.
get it onto a spreadsheet.
And it says something when you write it down and you see it. It does put a little weight to it, a
Hmm.
accountability piece. That part you said about track all your spending for 2 months, that was my game changer.
Hmm.
That was my game changer. I literally stopped a lot of idle spending when I did that, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am just walking through. And let me tell you, the worst thing to do is look to your left and to your right when you're in a checkout line, because that right there is designed to get you that's that last catch. It's always the bright, shiny, noisy, tasty stuff. And if you're not tracking your spending, you're not paying attention, they get me every time I go through the line. You know what I'm saying? And so when you look at that and you write it down, like you said, you see, man, where's this candy bar keep coming from? I don't even eat candy like that. Not realizing there's a name for that stuff there, and I can't. It's something like gotcha or catcha. There's an actual name for those items there, and they're actually designed to get that last little bit of money out of you right before you pay. If you notice,
Absolutely.
if you notice after the cash register, there's nothing to buy.
At all.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
They want you out the store now. You done gone. It's a straight way out.
Now they have because I got today at the Walmart. Now they have the kind of the like hand sanitizers, hand wipes, kind of the things to help keep us all safe during the pandemic. And
Mhm.
in my mind, I knew I didn't need any more hand sanitizer, but they had like the new Purell hand wipes. I was like, oh, well, let me try these.
Gotcha.
Because our mind is still in pandemic mode a little bit, and they have that right there, and it's like, okay, well, this is new stuff, let me try it and see if this will help. So yes, you're right, they do that intentionally on purpose. But if you go in there, I don't care if you use the cash method or you just say this is what I need to buy and have your grocery list, then that keeps you accountable, so that you're not picking up the extra things at the checkout line.
So the budgeting, is this something that I discuss? So like you and your husband, all right. You say you're the money manager. Obviously, you've been managing money since you could barely spell your name. So is it something that you and your husband actually sit down and discuss, or is it something that he entrusts what you do? Like, how is that? Let's talk about that marriage piece right there. How does that work? And granted, we're just talking from your perspective in your marriage. How does that work?
Yeah, and I thank you for that disclaimer. This is work. This is what works for us. I encourage people to figure out what's going to work for them, but it's a mix of both. So, again, when you have it written down or have it on in a spreadsheet, it's visible, it's there, and he sees it, and he can figure out where things are going, and if I say, oh, the kids left the water on, and now the water bill is da 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 da, he can see it for himself, right? So figure out. So for us, that's what we do. I have it written down. Again, it's something that we will review. Sometimes we'll try to do a schedule, but when you have a busy life, sometimes you may miss it. But we do have conversations frequently and often about what's coming in, what's going out, what's trending hot, what's trending over, what do we need, that's going to be a new additions to the budget. So we have those frequent conversations. So for us, it's more, I want to say it's more on the fly. So it's like, okay, he was checking in the other day about wanting to replace the fence or move the fence in the backyard. So we had a quick conversation around what does the next couple of weeks look like from the budget perspective. So it has become for us a part of our just daily check-in conversations. Now there has been a season again when we were managing our goal to pay off the credit card debt, where we had more structured time, right? Structured sit down time to look at things at the start of the year. It's a whole conversation, right? Because I came with my spreadsheets this year, so it's a whole
In them
conversation.
spreadsheets.
It's a whole conversation, so that's just what has worked for us. Now, I do say if you are in a season where you have more of the bigger, ambitious financial goals, have those sit down moments where you're both like, phone free, in tune, having conversations, and you're talking about it. When you get to a place where, you're kind of managing, maybe smaller things, or, what are we going to do for this particular initiative? That's something you can just say, okay, well, we have these things coming. You can make it a part of the conversation. But when you're tackling those very strategic goals, sit down, have a focused conversation. That's what worked for us in that particular season, and I think that should be a good practice for most people. And then the second thing, kind of that you said about the trust piece, and I think I can't speak for my husband, I guess per se, he's not here, but I do feel that he knows, I'm not out here trying to
Right.
run amok with the money. And we talked about me being risk averse. He knows that. So I'm not going to be trying to throw a bunch of money into something. So just kind of that trust issue. Like we don't per se have that. So it works for him to know, okay, well, the bills are getting paid. The ones that are not on auto pay, they're getting paid. We see them. We have shared emails. We have a shared drive. So we see, if something didn't draft out, and he'll say, hey, I didn't see X, Y, and Z bill email come through this month. I'm like, oh snap, yeah, you're right. I got to go in and pay it today. So we have that connected piece to where we're both seeing the emails, we're both seeing the bills come in, we're both seeing the spreadsheet in our own personal devices on our personal laptops, because we're kind of intertwined with that email. So that works for us.
I like that. I'm glad I asked you that because you showed us your perspective on how you handle that, and I think that is important because sometimes people need to see how that works. A lot of times when we talk about budgeting, and this is not a pot shot at you at all, but we talk about put it down and write it down and everything. But you got people like me that I'm an application person. So tell me how that applies. And so you being transparent on how it works, I'm glad I asked that question because you show a way of how that works. And honestly, for me, it was beneficial because that's not how we do it in our house. And I'm like, oh man, I like the way that, maybe I need to, and so all that to say thank you.
You're welcome. And I like how you said, what pieces can you just try to incorporate into your household? You may take like a small thing, like I said, we have the shared emails that pings on both of our phones. And that's where kind of the bills come through, right? So
That's the
we
part I
can
never
both.
thought about. I like that.
Yeah, because you can link multiple emails. So we just
Yeah.
have one account that's both dually linked, and the other business accounts and other emails and things. So we just have that one that's on both of our phones. So, and I think too that helps us. to keep each other accountable, because there may be some months where I'm running 1 million and he'll see the alert for a particular bill. We have like two that's not on auto pay, and he'll check in on that, or he'll pay it, or whatever the case may be. But you just work together. The goal is to work together to
Yes.
get things done. It's not about whose job it is per
Yeah.
se, or whose responsibility it is, because you're one, right? So it's
It's equal
one
responsibility.
responsibility.
Yeah. It's equal responsibility. You may be like in your family, you may be the one that manages the money, but I'm responsible to ensure that you have the
Space.
access or whatever, the space, the support, and all that. So it's sharing. I'm gonna go back to that pause and pivot. Like, you know what I'm saying? If this is your space, then how do I help you with your space? If this is your gift, how do I help you with? I'm babbling about marriage because that's my thing. That's my thing. I'm gonna ask just one final question, and I'm just gonna ask you straight and see what your answer is. Can you be successful financially and not budget?
Can you be successful financially and
And
not
not
budget?
budget.
Yes, you can, because your definition of success may be something different
That
from
ain't
mine.
the direction you
And
supposed to be going in.
and and for people who are in a position where they maybe live more frugally, maybe they have set some things, like their money is set up to auto draft where it needs to be, and they have their income, they have their expenses, and money just directs itself through auto pays and things of that nature. You probably don't have to budget. To be quite frankly honest, I'm trying to get more on that end of the spectrum than where I am now, because that's where you embrace and enjoy financial freedom, is when things are auto drafting into your savings, when things are auto drafting into your investment accounts, when things are auto drafting into your kids' accounts, and you are living off of the rest. So you cannot have a structured budget per se, right? So you've created your budget and you've directed things to go where they need to be, and then you can just check in on it
Listen,
whenever things look like they're going south or look like they're going extremely
we don't have enough time for this conversation.
well.
We don't, because there's so many more. Like you, there's so many more. Like what you just said. Just I thought your answer was gonna be a straight no.
Oh, really?
I really did. I mean, when you went on the direction about, you measure your own success, I was like, no, that ain't what I'm looking for. But when you explain, I was like, oh my gosh, that just look. Let me stop because listen, yeah, thank you. You have definitely living in your gift, your God given gift, walking in your gift definitely makes a big difference in what you do and how you do things. So, thank you for enlightening us. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise, and thank you for your passion that you have shared with us over this course of this show. Um, take a few minutes and tell people how to get in contact with you. Tell them, any information you want them to know. Because, yeah, somebody's going to reach out to you after this. So the floor is yours.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to share on today's episode, today's live. If you want to reach out, you can go to careermomcommunity.com. There is a budget section. You can also see my contact information on the coaching tab if you want to reach out. Please follow me on Instagram. It is Coach D _ the career mom. In my stories, I post links to my YouTube videos. I actually released a budget plan with me video today for the month of April. So you can see that on my YouTube channel. It is Coach D's Planner Life. On YouTube, there's a ton of how to budget, and you can get a peek into my life when it comes to budgeting. But I really have a passion for helping working mothers, helping families to have time freedom and financial freedom so that they can live the life that they really enjoy and walk in their purpose. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak on today's podcast. I hope this has been a blessing to those who are listening.
It has been more than a blessing. This has been, listen, I should have had my pen and paper now. If I wasn't the host, I'd have been taking notes. I'm glad somebody put your YouTube on it. You didn't tell me what your YouTube was. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for putting
Yes.
that in the comments. Definitely passionate about finances. I love the fact that you are a walking example of how to manage successfully a career and family. That's a big deal for me because, like I said earlier, that was a big deal for me in the military. So I mean, it's thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, all right, all right, all right. Listen, oh my gosh, like I wasn't ready. Can I be honest? Can I be transparent? I was not ready because, oh my gosh, I mean, um, a lot of you don't know, but there is I don't want to say a vetting process to be a guest on Let's Talk Family, but there is a initial intake interview, and we sit down and we build the show and we talk and we talk, and I knew she was a lover of budgeting. I knew she was a big planner, and I knew she was focused on her career and balancing all that. But I just got overwhelmed. I really did. She's a walking example of how to successfully manage your home and how to successfully manage a career. And in these times where we are with a lot of people going into entrepreneurship and having side businesses and the side hustles, which I don't really like call them side hustles because won't you just make it into a business and benefit from? But that's a story for another time. You know, she showed us that it can be done. So if that's you, if it's your desire that you want to do that, she's an example. You can reach out to her and uh, use her as an example, and it can be done. So I do thank her for her expertise and thank her for her time. This has been another episode of Let's Talk Family, a bi-weekly show where we just provide information to strengthen the family. If we have stronger families, then we would definitely have stronger communities. I am your host, Warren Mr. Bowtie Feaster. And I always like to end with my 3 points of interest. One, the center of everything is family. Two, be the best you that you can be. And three is called life. Live it. Have a great day.